Okay friends, so it's Rick Walton in my kitchen, and I appreciate the light may be dodgy, sorry about that, but I just want to get this thing done because it feels urgent, partly because I was going to say I am a bit hungover actually and looking a bit ropey. That may be a factor, but I don't think it's entirely that. I'm kind of on one a bit about this book, and themes arising, issues arising. I've just finished this book. I should very strongly recommend it. Presuming you can read that. It's David Olusoga, Black and British, a forgotten history being important. But look, yeah, let me just plough straight into a particular story because I've got hot and bothered about this, or this one's haunting me. It is harrowing, and it's also really fascinating. It's something of a classic in terms of racism generally. I hope that will make sense as I wade through it. Okay, so 1919 in the UK, in Liverpool specifically. Think it through just for a moment. This is a time when hundreds, thousands, of men mainly are coming back to their homes or to find work, and the environment is maybe kind of tense because of that, and disappointment, trauma, etc., etc., etc. None of which is any excuse for shocking racist behaviour, right? None of which. And that's exactly what we get here. And it's not just in Liverpool. I'm not knocking the Scousers. One of the things that I find quite interesting about this is one of the things I associate Liverpool with is a kind of big-hearted, lefty, socialistic generosity, and of course it's there and always has been. However, in this instance, no, there is no excuse for this. Again, I'm not picking on Liverpudlians particularly, but this is an extraordinary event, harrowing event, and I just want to go through it. A young man called Charles Wooton, aged 24 at the time, Bermudan born, but he has served in the British Navy throughout the First World War. Comes back into Liverpool alongside many colleagues, black and white. There is a black community based around, not entirely around the docks, and seamen or seamanship, but some of that is going on. And yet, because of this pinch point thing about lots of men mainly coming back, seeking work, prejudices rise, no excuses for it, of course, but it's a factor. And they rise to the shocking extent of what were called, I think they were called race riots at the time. It's certainly something that we might call them now, but actually it really wasn't race riots. It was crass, violent racism, racist thuggery from white people in the city against the Charles Wootons of this world. Okay, his particular scenario, he's chased, it's a long story, but he's chased through the streets by 200 or 300 people, allegedly, and then down into the Queen's Dock, by which time it's recorded by a local policeman that there may be 2,000 or 3,000 people there. They are throwing stones, they are looking to tear him apart, effectively. It's a mindless kind of mob, it's savage, actually, to use a contentious word, but that's what it is. Wooton is basically pushed or ushered into the water eventually. And they say stones are being thrown. When he's in the water, there are police there, by the way. One particular detective apparently tries to climb down to get him out and help him, bless him. However, other police are less helpful, and I'll come back to that in a minute maybe. But out of the crowd, a stone is thrown, hits Wooton on the head while he's flailing about in the water. He sinks, he drowns. It's a murder. That's a really appalling murder in front of a baying crowd. Unsurprisingly, it's a class. I think it feels like a classic. It's not judged to be murder. The police kind of cover it up effectively. It's put down as a drowning, when in fact Olusoga calls it a lynching, which is what it was. Now then, So I'm appalled by that. I'm appalled by that story. Not hugely surprised. There are many, many more similarly harrowing tales in here. This covers a huge period. It's a it is a great book. It's a really, really good book. I'm just going to have a look at a couple of notes to give me a couple of more references. 500 odd pages of covering the span, if it is a single story, maybe it's not at all, but black and British meaning. Black people in Britain, but also the links. It's about the interconnectedness between Britain, Africa, the Americas, Bristol, London, Liverpool, Sierra Leone, Bunce Island, terrible, terrible slave rape island, if you've seen the television programme that this also is connected to. Trade over centuries in people, slaves, obviously in one particular era around sugar and cotton in particular, so it's inevitably, it does focus medium heavily, shall I say, on that particular era in a way. However, it goes beyond, it brings us up to date. We get a modern view, Enoch Powell and all that, and actually on that, sorry, I'm just going to cut across my train of thought. Really interesting, another little gem. I hadn't realised that Enoch Powell, in his horrendous speech, Rivers of Blood speech, used the phrase, I think it's smiling pickaninnies. Anybody recall that being used more recently or being in the press recently? Johnson, okay, he wrote it some years ago, I believe, in a column probably for The Spectator, but, you know, so yes, the scope of this is massive, but the threat, the appalling, perennial, real, shameful reality, sorry I put that very badly, but you know what I mean, I'm angry and I'm struggling for this in a way, of racism at all levels of society is with us, and this book deals with that in a way that I think is hugely intelligent and remarkably comprehensive, and also has a certain grace, and which I hugely respect. I really love David Olusoga, again diverting slightly, but on this theme of grace or anger maybe, on Twitter. I'm a Twitter fiend, he's a Twitter fiend. If you go and follow him on Twitter, you will see that he's not, he's kind of quite punchy in a way that I really like, makes me laugh because he is funny, but he doesn't take any shit, and all the better for it. So plainly, there is an angry soul in there as well as a hugely bright, capable, genuine historian at a high level. The book's got all that in it. It's got all that in it. A couple of other little notes that I put down, you know, because I did learn a lot of stuff from this. The incredible stories. I learned about pretty little Negro boys being sold from the Dolphin Tavern in Tower Street in London in 1744. That area is really interesting, sort of that area, and before and after, actually, the whole notion that there was a community of sorts, although probably disparate, not really gathered, maybe, through sort of Georgian times, and that whole thing of it, little pretty black boys or girls, mainly boys, I think, being used as accessories by the posh, and actually by, ironically maybe, posh or top-end prostitutes, or whatever. There's something quite cool about having that particular kind of accessory. Prior to that, the book, it is, it's in a kind of it is in chronological order. So we do go back to, inverted commas, Roman times, early contacts between white people and black people, with a British perspective, but inevitably, as I say, because of the interconnectedness of all these many things around, let's face it, the theft of black people for their labour by white people for our advantage. Those stories resonate in a way that is really rather fine, and also deeply harrowing. So, bottom line, read the book. Read the book. Don't listen to me anymore. Read the book. It's a really, really excellent tome, but absolutely worth your investment. Respect to the man himself. This is a contentious area, isn't it? White middle-aged geezer who trying to do the right thing, but probably likely to say the wrong thing. I think I would like to say that, as well as feeling ashamed of what has been done kind of in my name, I am looking to educate myself so that I can be a better ally to black people who are struggling in many, many similar ways, in terms of being oppressed, in terms of lack of opportunity. So enough chat from me. Read this and read those which I've also read recently and covered in the same appalling, shallow way. Read them all. Okay? Good luck, people.